Engine response.
We have, it looks like a few vehicles that have exploded with several patients. If you upgrade this to a large MPI, Engine 46 will be command, will be triage right now with Engine 41. Can I have an opportunity?
Let's just triage them right now. I told them to do a casualty collection.
Okay, you got people everywhere here, so you need to yell to get them all out of here.
This drill's set up to do two things. One, whether you call it hyper-realistic, which it has been called, or immersion training, the concept is the same. Basically what we have to do is flood the senses and fool enough of the senses to make the paramedic feel like this is real. What that does is exhibit the right amount of stress level on them, and we can actually push them towards their failure point for their skills. What we want to do is, through time, kind of denature the ability for that stress to take over that paramedic, so that when they have to do these skills, they're doing it at the utmost efficiency. The pressure they felt here is similar to the pressure they'll find in real life. And the goal is that when they do these procedures, some of them they'll be doing for the first time in their career on a real human being, like a crike. That's a very dangerous procedure, very rarely done. We want it to be super efficient, and it's a life-saving skill when we do things like that. So there's really no replacing this type of training. You can stand in front of a task trainer all day long and do the skill over and over and over and over again. Until you put the pressure on the crews, you'll never know how they'll perform in real life. It's completely different from textbook and theory as opposed to the application here.
See you around here.
Engine 181 transport.
All right, over here real quick, okay?
Hey, this is gonna hurt.
Engine 181 transport, go ahead.
All right, hold on, okay?
Channel to operate transport.
This isn't gonna be pleasant.
The operation follow-through came that, you know, we train a lot, the fire department, the cops train a lot, the emergency room docs train a lot, the surgeons train a lot. And in their own right, they're all very good at what they do. But rarely do we get together and train with all of them. So sometimes we'll train with the cops, whether it's active shooter, sometimes we'll train with the emergency department. But rarely do we run this thing all the way through, and that's how I got to the name Operation Follow Through. So some of these victims actually start here, they'll all get transported. They go all the way from pre-hospital through the emergency department and through a full surgery with the docs and the residents at Sky Ridge. So the reason it's so important to take this drill to the extent that we did and have all of the details involved is that it kind of sets the stage for the responders coming into this drill to take it serious and to have that little bit of added stress. You know, we call it friction in training a lot, is to have that friction where if you come in here and people aren't acting like they're supposed to and the appropriate dispositions for the patients, everything's kind of downplayed. So with this, we thought that it was important to go ahead and blow up the cars rather than just cut them apart. Let's blow them up for real. Let's have the patients and the victims moulaged up, very real. So we've worked with Rocky Vista University closely on this drill as well. They've got a moulage team that is second to none. So they actually work on Hollywood movie sets and stuff. So they do some pretty cool stuff. They were really nice to us in the fact that they let us use their cut suits, which is our mannequins or a suit that the victim wears, that a living, breathing, human wears, to where our medics are allowed to do needle decompressions and crikes on the patient. So it's one thing to be able to do a needle decompression or a crike on a mannequin in the back of the ambulance, but it's a whole different ball game when this person is talking to you or breathing or having trouble breathing, but it's a live patient. So that kind of sets the stage for this whole the whole drill. There's a lot of realism here, and you can see it on the faces of the responders when they come around the corner and they see what we've set up here.
Triage is one of the most important things to this scene, and it'll happen multiple times over. The initial triage is to basically start taking the folks that we can have the greatest impact on. So we may walk past a green patient who's stable and go for somebody that's a red patient that's bleeding out. If we can stabilize that bleeding by putting a tourniquet on or quick clot or a combination of the two and stabilize that patient, that is a life that's saved without any further definitive care from us, just by getting the bleeding to stop. So a green patient is a walking wounded patient. Essentially their vitals are stable and they could, for all practical purposes, be taken to the hospital tomorrow, kind of thing. A yellow patient is a significant injury, but the vitals remain stable. And that's the vitals that we're looking at are respiratory rate and pulse. Later on in the incident, we actually get blood pressures, which will tell us if we're gaining ground or losing ground with patient stability. And then the red patients are immediate life threat. They're going to die in the next 5 minutes if they don't have intervention. And it could be airway intervention, it could be the bleeding control intervention that we talked about before. And some of these, in this instance, it'll be a lacerated liver and some perforated bowel. So they're going to bleed out in their abdominal cavity, and definitive care, a surgeon's the only one that's going to be able to save that person's life. So based on what the patient injuries are, those reds are going to die for one reason or another very, very quickly. MCIs, by definition, just mean that the patients outnumber the resources that you have available. For a rural system, it's going to be a little bit different from an urban system. Our system is a little bit different than Denver's system. So the first thing that needs to be, we need to be aware of is what is the capacity of our system. So we're capable of, in essence, without making a single phone call to a neighboring agency, transporting at minimum 18 patients in a relatively short amount of time. The MCI drill the other day, we had everybody in the ER at the 1 hour mark, and there were 25 patients for yesterday's drill, and then they had 5 that were dead. So when you're talking about sifting through a scene of 30 patients in that amount of time, that speaks to efficiency of crews. And the MCI, we're pretty fortunate, being that we have agencies all around us, that we would call in for additional resources. One of the things with this training that's very important is we have some of the private ambulances, and we do have a lot of our neighboring agencies here with us. So when we run this for real, we've trained with them before. We know the radio channels that they're using are compatible with ours. We know what they're capable of handling patient-wise. We know the equipment that they're carrying is the same as ours. So all of these logistical pieces are found out in the training.
So the importance of a drill like this, unfortunately, is that the world has completely changed, and that there are many, many surprises, not only in serious and significant trauma, but also in the environment where tornadoes and earthquakes now sweep through larger parts of more populated areas, and the counts of the casualties are much higher than in previous days. currently actually outnumbering most medical centers as far as them being able to take and care for the seriously injured. Well, we know, and it's been worked out very well by a gentleman named Bruce Siddle, that the 4 major events from the flight or fight response that we have are that we have amnesia, we have loss of hearing, we have tunnel vision, and we have loss of fine motor activity whenever there is stress. And the United States military and other law enforcement agencies have worked out what is now called stress inoculation, or another term would be habituation. We try to duplicate exactly the types of activity that one would go through so that one can, in their mind, have worked out the proper, if you would, algorithms so that you make the exact correct move. Knowing the military has clearly understood now in the last 15 or 20 years that training must be pushed to failure. This is especially present in our special operations community, where they realize that there is no real endpoint on any of this, and the only way to identify the next really good steps is to have failed, and then you sit and you can decide what is a pathway that would not be leading to that failure and what the events further on would be, so you can address them. So practicing to failure is not a failure. Practicing to failure allows you to improve your intelligence and knowledge of an event.
Stand by for go. Station 44.